I always kind of chuckle when they say, I think I'd be a great fit for your program, or I love what you're doing there. It's just a blanket, unpersonalized email.
If you're sending templated emails through like a recruiting software, or you're just sending the same thing to every coach and you're not getting any responses, this is why.
Do a little research, find a way to make it a little personable, and I think you'll find your response rate is much higher.
You're listening to the Football Scholarship Podcast, the playbook for parents and athletes who want to secure the best football scholarships possible. From securing a D1 football scholarship in the SEC at Ole Miss at just £5,700, myself, to helping 83% of the athletes I mentor achieve football scholarship offers and 42% going Division I, I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me and my co-host Brian Overton, who has 15 years of D1 college football recruiting experience, as we interview top experts, successful athletes, and discuss current recruiting trends. Together, we'll help you navigate the recruiting process so you too can achieve your dream of running out of that tunnel in front of 100,000 screaming fans.
Coach Killday, the new head football coach at Quincy University. Before taking over the Hawks program, he spent 8 seasons leading a record-breaking offense at Truman State as offensive coordinator, helping them win multiple bowl games and a conference championship. He's one of the most respected offensive minds in college football. And today, we're diving into his approach to recruiting, building winning teams, and helping athletes reach the next level. So, Coach Killday, I appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations on the new role. And, I'm excited to talk about your program. And, a lot of our listeners, they are high school football players and parents that really want to play college football and they love it. So I want to talk about your program and what you're building. And let's just start there, right? You're a new head coach. Tell me a little bit about kind of what your approach is to building the program the way that you want to build it.
That's a good question. I mean, first, for us, it was you got to kind of surround yourself with like-minded people, people who see the game the way you see it, with your staff, and then finding guys who like to compete at the high school level. Multi-sport, as a multi-sport kid myself, so guys who are always kind of jumping from one sport to the next, and it doesn't really matter what it is, or how good they are at it. They're just out there competing. They're giving their best effort, to try to win or help the team or whatever their role is. So finding guys that care about the game, want to compete at a high level, and want to win and be at the very best are the guys we're looking for.
Yeah. And so what's kind of your approach to find these guys?
I started my college coaching career here in 2010 as an assistant. Then I went to Truman for 8 years and I came back. I've been here for almost 2 years now. And the first thing was I've had the same recruiting area for 15 years, so, starting there, a lot of the high school coaches I know pretty well personally, I would say at this point. And so their recommendations of who guys are and who the guys are in the area. So going from there and then kind of branching it out. And for me, if there's a Division II or even a maybe not quite FCS type player, that we want in, that wants to play college football, we want them to be here. So locally, within an hour radius, if there's a scholarship level player, we want him to definitely give us a look, and we're going to give him a look and give him the opportunity to say no to us first and foremost. So starting locally and then kind of branching out from there for, one, good high school programs, that do things the right way or win. And then two, good, major areas, that you can get to 8 to 10 schools in a day, as, like the Springfield area, Champaign area, Moline, suburbs of Chicago, and kind of branching out there. And then don't be afraid to go off the beaten path. Find a kid at a small school. Again, that's probably a 3 sports kid, that knows how to put in a good hard day's work and knows how to compete. And those are all kind of the recipe for us, here.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. And so how do you set it up with your coaches? Do your coaches each have their own specific area, or do you recruit by position, or do you do an area coach model? I know you said you've had the same area from Truman to here, but how do you do it with your coaches? Is it a similar
So
area coach model, or?
we initially start in the area coach, so
Okay.
every coach has his own recruiting area. From there, once we get all that data and we get everything back and we put it into the system, we move to position coach recruiting. As a head
Yeah.
coach, and positionally you are responsible for your position. So um, I've been in places where all of a sudden you look up and hey, nobody's talked to this DB, and or this, I'm a quarterback coach, right? And nobody's talked to this quarterback in 3 weeks. Well, I'm I'm that guy, right? I'm supposed to be doing it, but it wasn't in my area, and you never want to, kind of didn't want to step on toes and offend anybody. So I think it's easy to start in area wise and have guys branch out and get all the data, put all the data in. Then at that point, it becomes the position coach or the coordinator, making sure we're headed in the right way.
Yeah. So do you guys have like kind of a big board and the area coach passes it to position to coordinator type thing?
Yep. So area coach evaluates it and says, yep, he's a scholarship level player or a Division II level athlete. And we put him on the board under, a needs evaluation tab, and then the position coach, and then ultimately the coordinator and the head coach, we tab it off, and then we kind of re-rank the boards from there once we've all evaled them.
Yeah. And so, just for you in building your program, let's say a kid hits the board, it gets all the way to you, right? Like you're the head guy. What then do you look for? Okay, scholarship level player can play. But
Right.
obviously, I know you said, multi-sport athlete and stuff like that, but obviously, what else are you looking for, not just as a player, but as a like, is there like, okay, it's like character check or grade check, or like, what are some of the things that are like non-negotiables for you?
Right. Those are all, pieces of the puzzle as you start to put it together. I mean, ultimately, most of the guys you look at, they can play Division II football, right? So it's all those other intangibles you start to try to put together. Okay, is he a multi-sport kid? If he's an old lineman, does he wrestle? That kind of starts to,
Interesting.
tab, split ties, if you will. What are his grades like? What else does he do? Is he just a football kid? Is it, okay, he's a football kid, but he's a 4-H kid too, or he's on, um, student council, or whatever else it can be that he does outside of what he, just playing the sport. And then, obviously you go back to the high school coach and his, personal notes. Hey, coach, he's a great kid. He's a captain. He plays on both sides of the football. He's not just a receiver. He's a DB and a receiver. Within that, he's on all four phases of kicking game. And then once you kind of get into that, you kind of know this guy's a ball player. He's not just a receiver out there running routes, right? He likes the game. And then, how important is football to them? Do they like high school football or do they like football? And then, most guys at the high school level, they really don't know the difference yet,
Right.
until they get here. Then they find out, no, I just really liked high school football. um, and you got to
That's a good
kind of
point.
dig into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Can they live without it, or no, this kid's he's about being a ball player. So
Big difference between high school and college, huh?
it is. Well, I mean, it's just,
It is.
again, if you're a multi-sport kid, you hang up the pads in November, and then you go play basketball, and then you go play baseball, and
Yeah.
then you get to the summer and you start retraining, and lifting and stuff to get ready for football. Well, and you hang up the pads here, and then in January you're in the back in the weight room,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there is
Oh yeah,
there's no other, lack of a better word, distraction, right? I mean, it's football
it's
at this
football.
point, and then you get into spring ball, and it becomes, it's real easy to say you love football on Saturday afternoon or Friday night at 7 o'clock, but January 30th at 6 a.m. in the weight room when it's 2 degrees outside, how many guys are excited to be in there?
Yeah,
That's who you find who really likes it or who thinks they like it.
yeah. It's interesting. You've brought this up a couple times, and I've interviewed a lot of coaches. it's interesting that it's real important to you. You know, you even said offense. Do they wrestle? Right? Do they play multiple sports? Why is that specifically really important for you and obviously your team, the culture that you're building? Why is multi-sport something that's so important to you?
Um, well, again, I came from a small school, so I mean, a lot of if guys didn't play multiple sports, there wouldn't be a team. I
Yeah.
think we only had 12 baseball players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you needed guys to, one, be about the team and be out there, and then two, I think it speaks to their competitiveness. You may not be the best. You might be a football guy, and you're an old lineman, right? You might not be the best basketball player, okay, but you're out there. You're helping the team. You're trying to find a role for you, and again, you're competing. You want to work. More importantly, it's easy to sit at home and just
Yeah.
lift, as opposed to get up and go through basketball practice at the end of school and those things, even when it's not your best sport. So you're a guy who's involved. You want to win, so you get used to competing year round.
Yeah. Is it a deal breaker for you? Like, let's say you
It's
find a
not a
guy.
deal breaker.
Okay.
But,
What?
again, it just comes down to splitting dies.
Yeah.
You got a receiver. They're both, let's just say, 6'2", 190. They got the same, bench press, squat. Everything's the same. And one guy's a receiver DB, right? And he plays track. He runs track. He plays basketball. The other guy's just a receiver, and he doesn't play any other sports. Okay. Um, when that guy doesn't get 7 catches a game, what's his attitude going to be like?
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
a good point. No one's ever really brought that up like that, like the way you are. That's interesting. And why offensive line wrestling?
leverage. Wrestling is a tough sport, man. I don't know how those guys do it. There's nowhere to hide out there. So I think it develops a lot of mental toughness, a lot of personal pride, and then two, leverage and knowing how to move people is um, it just becomes, if you get a good wrestler, he's a pretty good old lineman.
Yeah.
So, and I think one of our O-line coaches we had along the way, he's actually the head high school coach at QND now. He played O-line at Illinois, and then he played with the Ravens and the Raiders for a couple of years. And we were going through, looking at recruiting tape, and every time we brought up an O-lineman, he always asked, is he a wrestler? Is he a wrestler? And then he would always move those wrestlers just a little bit further up. And finally, it came down to that. It came down to leverage, personal pride, knowing how to move people.
Yeah.
Were big things for wrestlers and linemen. So
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely and also at like the Division II level too, specifically, I feel like it. I mean, obviously in any level, but like, sometimes they might not be as big as some of the bigger Division I players, but they're stronger. They have better leverage. They have different things that'll help them. So that definitely makes sense. Now, your other coaches, when they recruit their areas, obviously you've been doing it for a really long time, but maybe they haven't. Like, what's their approach? Like, if they don't necessarily know the high school coach, are they still using the high schools, or are they using social media? What is or is they all different?
They're kind of all different. The biggest thing I harp on is you're responsible for your position, you're responsible for your area. So at the end of the day, I don't want to get to signing day and a kid signs at another D2 school in the conference and we didn't know anything about him. So hey, make sure we comb through our areas. So some of that is social media, is Twitter. It's sometimes the high school coach is hard to get a hold of. So you're constantly kind of going through Twitter and seeing what's available to you, who's posting offers, or who's attending what camps, who's thinking he might be a 1AA type player, and he's probably a D2 guy, and who's above you. You might really like a kid, and he pops, 5 Missouri Valley offers. Well, doesn't matter how much you like him. He's probably not playing D2. So, Twitter and social media really help you kind of trim the fat there.
Yeah. Do you use it, or do you just
I do.
mainly?
Yeah, I do. So we still, it's the easiest way to get a hold of kids. I still like a good phone call every now and then, but more often than not, kids don't want to, they barely know how to talk on the phone. So DMs and text messaging are always a way to go.
Well, that's one of the things that like we teach, like we really take pride in with teaching these kids are like how to pick up the phone and communicate with a college coach, right?
Right.
Like, right? Because like you said, like let's say you have two kids and they're both great, scholarship players. They have the same GPAs, but one of the kids, maybe they're both not multi-sport athletes in your case, for example,
Right.
but one of the kids picks up the phone and calls you, communicates great with you, is excited to be a part of the program. Like that's going to impact you differently. No, like is that not like a big difference in your evaluation of that player? Am I wrong
Yeah,
on that?
exactly. And the recruiting kids that want to be here is another piece. When they're receptive to the recruiting process, there's a lot of times you're recruiting a kid, you maybe text him at 8 a.m. Hey man, have a great day. Blah blah blah. Excited for your visit, whatever it is, and you might go 48 hours before they text you back, right? And that kid, you kind of start to put the pieces together. He Quincy's the last resort, for that particular kid, as opposed to the kid that, as soon as you text him, he gets right back to you within 5 minutes, and he always, responds to your message, and he's always excited to talk to you, or whatever it may be. Those are two totally different perceptions that their pictures are painting for you. The kid that doesn't get back to you, and then also, for me, it's information's good either way. Um, that kid that doesn't get back to you, well, you're probably going to have to be chasing him to get his physical done in time, right? You're probably going to have to be chasing him to go to class. He's going to be that type of kid that you're always going to have to be checking up on, as opposed to the kid that gets right back to you, gets everything done. You recruit your own problems too, so
Kind of tells you kind of get a glimpse by just the way that they respond, the way they. So we tell them, man,
yeah.
like the way you communicate with these coaches, the relationships that you have with them matter. You know what I
Right.
mean? You.
And for me, and I tell kids pretty early in the process, hey, if this isn't a place for you, I get it. I'm okay with that. Just be upfront and honest with it.
Yeah.
Hey coach, I'm kind of looking at this, and this. Great. Fantastic, man. I wish you the best. We'll if things change down the road, let us know. And I think because I'm going to be upfront and honest with my approach to you. Hey, this isn't. We got a kid at running back, quarterback, receiver, whatever, that's committed. I don't know if we're going to be able to do anything with you scholarship wise. So just try to be upfront and honest throughout the process, and you hope the kid does the same.
Yeah.
Instead of a lot of kids just stop talking to you. And you gotta,
Yeah.
you're like, man, just pick up the phone and tell me. It's okay. I get
Yeah.
told no all the time. It's not gonna bother me.
Yeah.
It's information, right? Either way, it's an answer, yes or no, and we can kind of keep shuffling our feet and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, recruiting's so wild, man, because it's like on both sides. I'm not saying you, but like a lot of coaches do this, they ghost players, and
Yep.
like a lot of players, they ghost the coaches. And it's like, look, like my thing is you have no idea, like Coach Killday, right? Like you might stop coaching him because you didn't want to go to Quincy. And I'm not saying this will happen, but next year you're all of a sudden at, XYZ FCS school and you're like, oh, I want to go there. And now you burned a bridge, right? This industry is wild, man. People are moving around. Things are changing constantly. Like relationships are relationships. You're communicating with a coach. Just be upfront with them. Be honest with them. And same thing, as a coach, like you don't want this player, just tell them I don't want this.
Right.
I'm not saying you, but like just anyone
Yep.
listening right now, like, hey, you don't like the player, just tell the player. Like, and we that's one thing I harp on. I'm like, you're gonna get rejected, but cool, move on. You
Right.
take them off, just like you take a player off their big board, you take the school off your big board, right? And that's if we could just get everyone to do that, coach, then man, if we could just get everyone,
it'd be a lot easier. It'd be a lot easier.
So let's say, okay, so you move them, they get to you, they're excited. Now, do you do any type of like, hey, I in order for me to offer, I've got to do, they have to come on a visit or they got to come to camp, or what's kind of your process from love the kid, multi-sport, or he's not multi-sport, but he checks all the boxes. You want to offer him. Are you a, in-person check at a visit? Do they have to be on campus? Camps? Like, what's kind of your process there?
Yeah. The big thing is trying to get you on a visit, is a big deal. And sometimes you got to offer a kid to get them on a visit, which is fair. Hey, there's only so much time. You only have so many weekends in January to get this done. As you really talk D2 recruiting, it's such a small window. Um, he might have 5 D2 schools that are messing with him. So you might have to put, a little cash in the game to, hey, we're going to offer you, it's going to be X amount of dollars. This is kind of what we're thinking. Um, but we got to get you on a visit. You got to get here and check out campus. And I try to, as many as I can, I try to home visit as many guys as I can. Your top end guys and getting the home and kind of make that dollar amount. Cause Division II recruiting is, a lot of people don't understand. It's 36 full scholarships. I got way
Right.
more than 36 guys on the roster. So when parents here or kids here, yeah, you have an offer, everybody automatically assumes it's a full offer.
Mm-hmm.
And very rare is that the case at the Division II level. So it's piecing together their academic money, and their scholarship money to try to get them the best offer we can, to stretch our dollars as well, to put together the best team we can. So, there's a piece of that where you sit down with the parents and you got to talk through, the dollars and cents of it, as best you can. And more importantly, the last thing I want is you come to campus, right? I don't give you an offer. You come to campus, you love it. This is where I want to be. And then I give you the dollar amount and the parents look at each other and they're like, we can't make that work,
Yeah.
and now it's where the kid wants to be.
Right.
Parents can't make it work. Now you've created an issue that could have been avoided just by communicating. Whereas I can get ahead, a week out before you come on a visit. Hey, you're good. You're set to a visit. This is what we're thinking dollar wise. Can you make that work? Yes. All right, let's go. We'll see you on Saturday. Or no, hey, coach, we can't. Okay, great. We understand. That's the best I can do.
Yeah.
So
Negotiate a little bit, maybe, depending
right.
on.
Hey, if things change, we have some guys drop off. I'll see what I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like with one of the things that I'm like big on is scholarship stacking, right? Different types. It doesn't just have to be athletic. It's athletic, it's grants, it's academic aid, it's need-based aid. There's so many different ways that you can, stack up money. Like we had a player that went to a Division II program last year and they were only able to offer him 50% of the tuition, but he ended up getting 93% covered because he was able to get a grant and some other academic aid, and then he retook his SAT and so you can 50% to 93% of school covered. That's a big difference by just, working the process. And
correct. And there's other scholarships out there and there's
yeah.
different things you can apply for. And
Yeah. So timeline wise, when you said January is tight, are you saying just because early signing day, most of the guys that were potentially going to go to FCS kind of maybe fall off? Like, walk me through that time period.
so I'll take you through our calendar year right now.
Yeah.
So we start mid-April, kind of gathering the information for the next class from the high school coaches, or your area recruiting coaches. And then you kind of start to put your boards together, evaluate them, rank them, get an idea. And then, summer starts to hit, into May, you're kind of figuring out what kids are going to what camps, where they're going to be, and where the most guys on our board going to be, and how can we get to the camp so we can get a live eval and kind of see those guys move in person and make sure the film translates to what we're seeing. And then, in July to August, we'll start to talk game day visits and potentially early offers. And then, for that piece, we're building information throughout the summer, May, June, July, August, just putting pieces of information again. Hey, what's this kid's bench? What's his squat? What's his GPA? What's his core GPA? What does parents do? Does he have any brothers and sisters? Whatever that information, anything can help you. Oh, hey, guess what? His mom went here. She graduated in, 87.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
His uncle played here, whatever it can be, just those things as you start to put it together. And then, once you're in season, it's game day visits, following up. Occasionally I'll get out to a high school game when I can. And then for us, we fooled around with a December visit, but really it's January. We'll have our official visits in January, and we'll kind of roll from there. And then at that point, from January 10th signing day, it goes pretty quick in terms of
Yeah. All your
commitments and
commitments and
yeah.
If you're the parent of a high school football player who wants to earn a college football scholarship and your son is struggling with marketing himself or confidently communicating with college coaches, I wrote this book specifically for you. Inside it, I share exactly how I earned a Division I football scholarship in the SEC at just 5'7" and 150 pounds, without going to camps, being ranked, and without any connections. And right now, I'd like to give you a copy completely free. All I ask is that you just cover shipping. I'll drop a link in the description below so you can grab your copy before we run out.
yeah, it's an interesting timeline just because of like early signing day. Do you guys ever get signees on early signing day, or most of them on that regular
No,
day?
we still can't sign them. They're just verbal at that
Okay.
point. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still on the non.
It's
I don't think.
D1 only.
Yeah, D1 only. D2 is just still verbal until February.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, is there a period of time where once, early signing day passes and some of these guys that maybe thought they were going to go to FCS do you have like a kind of a board specific for those guys to try to pull them in, or?
We do, and those are always those conversations. Again, going back to your recruiting coaches and recruiting areas and those guys, hey, he had, 4 FCS offers or 1 AA offers in January, or excuse me, in June, and he went to the camp circuit. He didn't jump on any of them. He never committed anywhere. Hey, what's the tight end doing? How come anybody, so you follow back up with a high school coach, you follow back up with the kid. No, coach, all my offers, I didn't commit and they filled up. I'm looking for a home. Those cases are few and far between, but
Yeah.
there's still a couple here and there that always happen.
Yeah.
It's those pieces, or a kid thinks he's going somewhere. He's ready to commit, and he goes to commit at a D1, and that's not a committable offer. And he has shut down his recruiting, and he's got nothing left. And sometimes you're there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. They didn't ask the question, is it committable?
Right.
It happens a lot. So you mentioned camps, right? That you go to other camps. Do you not hold your own individual?
We do a couple team camps, but we don't do a prospect camp. No.
Okay. What do you mean by a team camp? Walk me through that.
Just your old school. You get 5 or 6 teams that come in.
Okay, like a mega camp style, like a
kind of. You get like I said, 6 or 7 teams, and they scrimmage against each other for 20 minutes or so, and just kind of round robin it. And so it's kind of the best of both worlds. The coaches kind of coach their guys. We're just playing ref and organizing it for them. But you get a good look at guys and who can compete and who wants to be there. And there's no game plan at that point. You're running plays, so who can figure it out on their own out there a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. What's your reasoning behind not doing like a prospect camp?
The main thing is it's hard to, they've done them here before I got here, and then we did our first one last summer, and you're looking 25 to 30 kids, not a huge number, so it wasn't. I'm not gonna say it's not worth your time, because anytime you're recruiting, you're getting something out of it. But I thought the more bang for our buck was the team camps. And kind of getting those guys there, as opposed to everybody does a camp now. everybody does a prospect camp, so it's hard to one, find the right time to do it, um, and two, also, you get kids that have been at 5 camps in 5 days, and you're testing their broad jump, and the kid's exhausted, and he's over camped, but that kind of puts a little damper on your evaluation. You thought, oh no, this kid's going to be really good based on his video, and then he gets there and, hey, how many camps you been at this week? Oh, this is my 5th one. Oh, okay, that makes sense. You look tired.
Yeah, how many sprints have you ran?
Right.
Because
How many one-on-one reps have you had this week?
yeah. Okay. Do you feel like you at those team camps, are there prospects there though, or
Yeah.
is it okay?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, it's still local schools. They drive in for the day, and it's still, like I said, they got their whole team there. They got their varsity players there, and you kind of have an idea who's who already. But now you get to see them. Same as having a prospect. Now they're just running their 11-on-11. Their scrimmage against another high school team.
Oh, okay. So it's not a. I was thinking like it was more like multiple colleges come together to get guys.
No.
That's like the
No.
mega camp style. So you're
Yeah.
saying like the local schools in the area come and they like play full blown
Yeah.
pads 11. Ah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So we bring them in, and we do, like I said, a little scrimmage, and it's not live. It's we stay up, and they go about 20-minute running clock, and kind of round robin it, and a little jamboree style, if you will.
But so the challenge with that though is like, let's say you have guys that don't go to those schools. There's no way. The only way you really can evaluate them or do any type of in person is just an official visit or try to maybe get to one of their games.
Right. Correct.
I see. Okay. Do you find those team scrimmages to be like? Do you get a lot of like signees from those or?
We've had fairly, again, it's mostly local schools, so
Yeah.
it's
You already
kind
know
of,
the guys, right?
most of them, but every now and then, that jump from a kid's junior year is, you're watching junior tape from, September, October, and then fast forward to July, he's going into his senior year. Sometimes it's like, oh,
Who's that
that's
guy?
that kid, that's that kid, and that, I mean, that change in a 17-year-old male from that time, to his senior year, all of a sudden, sometimes you get some hidden gems in there.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, every school kind of does camps a little bit differently.
Right.
It's an interesting model that you have. Do you think you'll ever do something like a camps or anything like that in the future? Or this has just
Yeah,
been really working?
I'm not opposed to it. It's just whether we can find the right time to where,
That's the hard part. It's like
the
a marketing play. It's all about marketing for the camp.
correct, so and Quincy's, there's not it's kind of tying it together to where you can get the most for what you have, right? And how can we attract 60 to 70 high school prospects to one camp? And again, it's finding the right time in the market. When's who's not having any camps this week, which good luck with that.
Of course.
and,
I mean, especially at this time.
and then you got to find your niche in it, and we'll keep looking to when the best time is for us. And um, it's it's always an interesting thing because we're split staff wise on it. When are we doing a camp? No, let's not do it. Yeah, let's do it. There's arguments for both. And we, like I said, we go back and forth on it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I also could see like from a coach's perspective. I mean, it's essentially it's like all of a sudden like in your recruiting process, it's this constant of I got to get guys to camp. I got to get guys to
Right.
camp, right? And so it becomes like this giant marketing sales play to get guys to camp, which is good, which can be good, like obviously. But I could see how it also kind of maybe could take away from recruiting a little bit too.
It does, and you got that piece of, some schools are just trying to drive up their camp numbers for better checks for their staff, which it's
100%.
all part of it. And some guys are legitimately know, hey, it's a live eval, right?
Yeah.
We kind of want to see you move around in person, which is fair too. So it's there's both sides of it for a lot of reasons for both the players and the coaches.
Yeah. We teach the guys that, when you get a camp invite, you've got to, communicate with the coach, make sure, and have they seen your game film? Are they actively recruiting you?
Right.
Right. If not, like, good luck, dude.
Right.
So, and that's fair. I think that's fair, and coaches respond back and they're like, yeah, we watched your game film. We're serious, It's like, okay, cool. And then let's talk about it. But if it's
Right.
like it's just a blind marketing mass email, it's like, all right.
Right.
So no, it's interesting, man. All right. So for you, real quick, I just want to talk about where you want it. Like, what's your vision for the program, right? As you're building this and you're kind of moving it forward and getting the ball rolling this first year, like what's your vision for it? And how do you see yourself kind of building this out?
Yeah, I think one, in terms of recruiting, um, we definitely want it to be a place where, kind of a destination place. People want to come to Quincy, right? Then you've been, I was here 15 years ago where people had to go to Quincy because it was the best offer. Now it's, hey, we're putting a product on the field that we're competitive week in, week out, and we're giving guys the opportunity to play at a high level, playing a good game, and then more importantly, when you come here and our staff, you're being coached by us. You know, we want you to feel like we're in the foxhole with you, right? We want the same thing. We want to win football games, and we want you to get a degree. You want to get a degree, we want to help you get a degree, and we want to win football games along the way. So, how can we help you get to where we need to go? Is a big thing, as opposed to, I've been in, I've heard stories or been a part of, hey, it's coaches versus coaches, players versus coaches, coaches versus players. That's not how we want it here. We want it to, hey, we're in the foxhole with you, right? We're trying to we got the same goals when you cut away all the other crap, and that's what it is. It's we want to win football games, and you want to get a degree. Okay, how can we do that? What do you need from me to get there? And this is what I need from you. Okay. And, once you start painting those pictures and you're open and honest in your communication, things start to go your way pretty quick. And then two, like I said, a destination, and then um, being the envy of Division II for how we take care of our players and win, is kind of the goal for me, as you kind of build this thing from the ground up. And we started locally. We've done really well in the local recruiting piece of this, and we'll continue to build and branch out from there. And you put a good product on the field, and people want to be a part of it. That's kind of the vision.
Yeah. Now, my last thing here is just from a recruit's perspective, like, obviously the local area and kind of where you're at. What about players that are not specifically local, that are interested in Quincy and really like Quincy and great as a Division II player, but are interested in it? How do you, handle players that are not, specifically local, that are interested and do great as a Division II at the Division II level?
I think it's a good question. You can imagine I get a lot of emails from a lot of different high school kids, and I always kind of chuckle when they say, "I think I'd be a great fit for your program," or "I love what you're doing there," or, whatever it is. It's just your blanket, uh, you know,
It's
canned
not
email.
customized. It's
It's
just
not
template.
customized, and I always kind of chuckle myself. I'm like, I wonder, what he knows about Quincy, or what's his interest. There's a lot of schools between here and Arizona. Why is this kid from Arizona emailing me?
Yeah.
So, those pieces are, if you're going to reach out or to a school that's outside of your recruiting area, um, do some homework on it. Find a way to make it personalized. Find a way to make it. Hey, I
It's not
like
that
to.
hard. This isn't
Yeah,
hard.
Coach, I'm an aviation major. I know you guys have it. There's only, I think I'm a D2 guy. Great. Now we've narrowed it down. There's only a couple different options for you. And if, that if Quincy's a spot for you, sure, we can make this work, um,
Yeah.
or, hey, we got a 5-year MBA program. Coach, I'm a business guy. want to be able to get my master's within my undergrad and my master's in 5 years. So you guys offer that. What do you think of my film? Great. That much more apt for me to take a look at that film as opposed to, just a blanket unpersonalized email from, 7 states away. Like,
This is literally the best of the whole conversation, I have to say. Like this, like if you're listening to this right now and you're sending templated emails through like a recruiting software, or you're just sending the same thing to every coach and you're not getting any responses, this is why. Because the coach looks at it and he's like, how do I know that like you're really interested in this program? Why would I spend my time when, this could just be sent to anywhere? Whereas if it's like, hey, I've already done my research on the program, on the school, and this is why I'm interested in it. For a coach, it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Let me take a look. Whereas before, it's like, if you're getting, how many emails do you get a day like that?
it's north of 100.
Yeah. So if you get
Yeah.
100 of those, and you can only go through them so fast, right? So I'm sure there's even subconsciously, you might even filter some of them, like, you know what I mean? To get through them. But then you read one and it's like, hey, it's very specific to Quincy and what what the school has to offer and why that's a good fit potentially for you. And if you're not a, Division 3 player reaching out to Division 2, or you got to be at that level. And if you're at that level, then it's like, cool, now let's have a conversation, or now let's continue the process. Whereas I get tons of emails and it's like, you're not even using my name. Like,
No, again, and like I said, if it's I'll use Arizona as an example. It's just, man, there's a lot of D2 schools between here and there. So why are you reaching out to me? You know, it's that piece, and if you do have an interest, great. We can go down that road. That's
yeah,
fine. But more often than not, it feels like you probably emailed 50 D2 schools. And that's fine too. I mean, you got to do what you have to do for your own recruiting and that piece of it. But my advice, if I can give any, is do a little research, find a way to make it a little personable, and I think you'll find your response rate is much higher.
yeah. And also, like, in general, like, why are you reaching out to a school that you would never go to? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there are Division 2 schools between here and there, but the reason I'm reaching out there is because of this, and this specifically.
Right.
Boom. And it's like, great. Okay, let's talk. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
1000%.
how much time do you have in a day? It's very limited, right? And you want to make sure that you're adding guys to your board that are serious, right? And so this is a great conversation, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know there's a lot of families out there that are going to listen to this and get a lot out of this, right? And hopefully change some of the things that they're doing, that they're learning online, unfortunately, that are steering them in the wrong direction, and they can hear it from an actual head football coach that's going through the process right now, right? And you can't get it from any better source than that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, it's my approach to it. Like I said, there's a lot of schools between here and there, and more importantly, let's say you're a 5'10", 215-pound linebacker, and there's a lot of 5'10", 215-pound linebackers out there. Why would I go to Arizona to get one when I can go to south side of Chicago to get one? You better be really, really good or have a really good reason why you want to come here.
Mm.
Being marketable for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just certain, everybody's got a running back. Everybody has a linebacker. Everybody's got a DB. It's what are you doing to stand out, and what's the draw to that particular university? What's going to make me open your email?
That's awesome. I'm just writing this down. For you, like, just curious, and it's just because this came up. I know we're kind of gearing towards the end of this call, but what does make you open an email?
Well, again, start locally. If it's
But I mean, if you're looking at like a subject or an email, like some,
yeah,
I'm sure you see some and you're like, I already know what this is. Delete. You know what I mean? Like, what is there something that you look at where you're like, all right, I'll open this.
I'll
Just curious.
open.
I don't know if you even
I would say probably 90 to 95% of the emails I at least open, and then I get you know a couple lines in, decide if I'm going to respond or forward that on to the position coach at
an
that
area
point
coach or
or the
something.
area coach. And then the big things are going to be measurables. If it's an old lineman, and he says he's
That's
six
one
six.
position.
What I mean, 6'6". Okay, there's go to Walmart. There's not that many 6'6" guys walking around. You know, um,
O
yeah,
line's the one position though. If like you don't have size, it's
stuff.
tough. Yeah.
Right, stuff. If
Slot
you're
receiver, running back, you
yeah,
could play around with corner, but O line,
again, if you're a 6 foot kid from Arizona playing old line, man, it's gonna be tough for me to open that thing to respond to that email.
yeah,
Unless you tell me, hey coach, I'm interested in aviation. Okay, that's different,
yeah,
you know. But it's those kind of things of, your measurables are going to jump out. Your GPA, um, if kids say I'm a 4.0 student, I'm interested in business. Okay, we can sell that. That's an easy marriage. Um, and then stats. Those if you include those, hey, I ran for 2,000 yards. Okay, you're durable. You're obviously explosive. Whatever it may be. I had 85 catches. Okay. Those
yeah,
those guys jump out and grab you. So those kind of anything you can include like that helps along the way.
yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Well, Coach Killday, I appreciate you taking time out of your day and being on the podcast and sharing some insights that again, like I said, I think are going to be really valuable for a lot of families out there. And for you, is there anything else that you want to share that a parent or an athlete out there listening, that you want to kind of share about Quincy and
No,
how they can
I
contact you?
don't. We're a Division II school, playing the Great Lakes Valley Conference, and the enrollment's around 1,100, so we're a small private Catholic institution, and then the city of Quincy is about 40,000 people. So it's a it's a big city for as far as D2 schools go.
Yeah,
And the cool thing about us is we're in the neighborhood. We're the neighbor Quincy's around us. We're not on the outskirts of it. We have an Amtrak here that runs twice a day to Chicago. We got an airport here that has daily flights to St. Louis and Chicago. We're two hours from St. Louis. We're 5 hours from Chicago. We're in a pretty good spot.
nice. How long
Um,
is that train? Just curious to Chicago.
4.5 hours.
Okay, that's what you meant
Yep.
by the 5 hour. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yeah. So and it runs 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. every day.
Oh wow.
So an
Okay.
Amtrak, and it's like I said, it's a good setup. It's a good town. It's a good university. And then that piece of it, even though I said I get a lot of emails. Don't be if you have interest or questions or something or whatever we may have said throughout the podcast piques your interest. Don't be afraid to shoot me an email if you want some more information, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can.
Yeah, but don't send him a freaking email. You know what I mean? Like, if you're serious about Quincy, this is what you can learn from this podcast. If you don't watch any of my other YouTube videos, customize your email. Do not send a mass blast. If you're interested in a program, tell them why you're interested in that program and how you can help them, and make sure you're reaching out to schools that are at the right level. Those two things. Like this is,
Yep.
So awesome. Well, again, really appreciate you having you on. I think this is super insightful and valuable. And if you are interested in Quincy, like I said, just do it the right way. And Coach Killday will get back to you, or he'll get you connected with the area coach that's responsible for recruiting your area. So appreciate you having here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Scholarship Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And for more free resources or If you're interested in working with us, visit gonextplay.com. Until next time.